Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Growth Vertical. Today we have a special guest, Phil Smith, who's a serial entrepreneur for over about 20 years, and he's sold over three companies, well over three companies, and 3 years in a row. He's actually known for making Inc. 5000's list multiple years in a row for the fastest growing private companies, and even partnering with the likes of Kevin Harrington, who you may know already as the original shark or an original shark on Shark Tank. Today, we're having Phil Smith here so we can talk about the fastest way to seven figures, how to jumpstart an automated and scalable business to make more money with Phil Smith. So, Phil, thank you for joining us. It's great to have you here on this episode and for a great topic too. But before we get into it, can we just hear a bit about yourself? Tell me a bit about, how it all started for you.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me, and definitely excited to be here and talk shop. I love this stuff. So, how it all started for me, man, I have to tell you, I was a bad teenager. My mom ended up passing away in a car accident when I was 15, and my parents were already divorced, and my dad was an alcoholic. So, I ended up doing a lot of bad things in my late teenage years. But I finally turned it around. I told myself I needed to make a change when I was about 21. I actually went to college then. But at 23, I had the choice to either take a job after I got my associate's degree or start a business. And at the time, I asked my dad, what should I do? And he said, go take the job because that's all he knew. And I ended up asking a wealthy businessman what to do. And he said, become an entrepreneur. You're young, you can make mistakes, no big deal. You can always get a job. So I asked myself, who do I want to be like when I grow up? And obviously want to be like the entrepreneur who vacationed, owned buildings, had multiple businesses, had the nice big house, the nice cars. So ended up borrowing $1,500 from my sister and started my first business. And that was selling dial-up services in 1998. Going back
Nice.
a long time ago. I can't believe it's been that long, and I can't believe I was selling dial-up. So that business, the ups and downs, like any business, we grew it, and in 2005, we ended up being bought out from a public company, and that was my first exit. And so far, I've been now part of five acquisitions since that, total. And it's been an interesting journey. But that's how it all started. Just basically taking the advice. I took advice from the right person. And that's something that
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't do. They take advice from the wrong people. So you really have to be careful because I know people that like to give advice, and I'm in the same room as them, and I hear them giving the wrong advice to the wrong people, and it's just, yeah, you just got to be careful. I actually made a video about that a couple weeks ago, but anyway, but yeah, that's how it all got started, man. It just did it.
So I guess you found, hey, I think, do you know what's interesting, right? You find, and I've heard this a lot. I don't know if this is the same case for you, but you tend to find that a lot of the entrepreneurs, they start off in a direction. Well, they start off in a position where they're like, well, we can go to either or, and then they sort of just go with it, and then next thing you know, they find themselves in this constant like, um, they just it's smooth sailing. Obviously, not in terms of actually being successful or failing, but it's more like it's smooth sailing as in, hey, I love this, and I'm going to keep trying to do this over and over again. And then there's those that are really forceful with it, like it has to be one way or the other. So it seems like you kind of fell into it when you took that as well, and then I guess you grew with that, didn't you, over the years? Because you've mentioned you've gone from helping the small businesses up to the large scale businesses, and that too when you had a choice of whether you should just get a job or not.
Yeah, 100%. When I first started, I just took whatever opportunity was in front of me, and that's typically what people do. The great thing was that we figured out how to scale it and exit it. That business had over 200 employees, at its peak, which to me now, when I think about it, is a complete nightmare because I've been a one employee company since 2006. So to go back to that is not something I ever want to do again. But now, and I think this is so one of the mistakes I do see people make is they go into a business
Yeah.
that doesn't have that scalability. It doesn't have that exit potential. Because at the end of the day, you need to do the same amount of work. It doesn't matter what business you grow. So, for example, you go and start a dog walking business. You're going to have to bust your butt every single day to build that business. You're going to have to live and breathe that business. It doesn't matter what it is. So, you might as well go into a business that has the highest income potential for your time, a business that's more automated, more scalable, and maybe exit it if that's, something that you want to do and that's your goals. So that's what I do today. I don't touch a business unless I can generate at least 6 figures a month, 7 figures a year. I won't even touch it. There's no point because I already know the work I have to do. And if you ever watch Shark Tank and you hear the investors on the show and they say, when I get up in the morning, I'm going to have to put a lot of work into this business. So I want to make more money. So you're 3% off, or I need 20% of your business in order to make it worth my time. Same concept, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what you're doing. You might as well yield the most results for your time.
Yeah. So do you have any examples of what those businesses look like? So what are those types of businesses that people should be considering? Not it doesn't have to be the exact one, but like themes maybe.
Right. I'll give you an example. Take a car dealership. Okay. You have a car dealership, maybe you're selling used cars. If you go and sell that business, you're probably getting like 1x multiple of your profit, right?
Yeah.
Something like that, maybe of your revenue. You're not getting this massive, massive multiple. If you take a SaaS business, a software as a service business, that business can sell 5x your gross revenue. So if you're going to go build a business, why would you not go build a SaaS business over a car dealership, just as an example? My web hosting company that we sold was a 1x multiple. That's all it was. You couldn't get more than that, right? So you take a SaaS business, though, which I just launched earlier this year, myself, has that huge multiple. So if you're going to go start a business up and you're going to put your blood, sweat, and tears into it over the next whatever amount of years, you might as well start a business that has a 5x multiple off your gross sales than a 1x multiple off your gross profit or your revenue, right? So makes sense to me. So that's the best advice I can give. A quick example, but you can apply that to a lot of businesses. So again, it just goes back to what your end goal is. Now, listen, there's a lot of people that just want to buy themselves a job. So they go buy a franchise. And that's just buying yourself a job. Franchises have minimum income potential. I don't mean minimum. I mean, you're maxed out. There's only so much money that you can make if you buy a franchise.
Yeah.
The only way you scale is you buy multiple franchises. So if that's your goal and you understand that and you have the money to do it, great, right? That's totally fine. But just know what you're getting into. I know a lot of people that bought franchises and they were unhappy. And of course, there's a lot of people that are happy, but I've seen a lot of franchises go out of business and they're like, oh my God, never again. I'm not knocking franchises, nothing wrong with them. You just got to make sure it's the right decision for you. And you're making that, you're going to a business that you understand what you're getting involved in. So a lot of people want to leave the corporate world, go buy a business, they buy a franchise, and they're like, wow, I just went from one job to another.
Yeah. I actually say this. I've been saying this recently. So, and speaking of franchises, I've actually had people approach me in the past where it's like, hey, this is the holy grail. It's almost like they position it as the holy grail of essentially business and investing. So you're an entrepreneur. And he's like, they use examples like, hey, do you know how many franchises Wiz Khalifa owns? And I'm thinking in my head, this is great, right? But maybe this is something that those people of high net worth tend to invest in once they've already accumulated that large sum, right? They need to put it somewhere. They need to put it in certain vehicles. Exactly. And that's when they buy out those franchises because they can automate some end of that. Not by, I'm sure Wiz Khalifa is not making music behind one of the McDonald's he's owned, right? Or anything like that. It's like a different type of investment that they make. But I don't think it's the holy grail. So I do agree. Yeah. And then recently we've been talking about actually the transition to whether it's from working to freelancing, etc. The step to freelancing to even owning the business is you've got to do everything yourself in the beginning, in the sense that all the accounting, all the payments to yourself, all that stuff, you're essentially saying that, hey, I'm going to do this by myself. So therefore, I've got to set it up for myself. And then they don't realize that without the customers, we are technically in a job anyway. So you're technically doing the same thing. You're just not doing it in house. You're doing it externally. So I think that's where your examples are coming in, where you're saying, you're able to do this, and you can do this at a massive scale, but you got to choose the right type of business one, and it's going to be like a scalable model, right?
Oh, 100%. And you're right that like Shaq has a bunch of franchises. If you're going to buy a lot of them and you just have a certain amount of wealth where it makes sense, hey, this is just an investment. I'm not actually doing anything. I bought, 10, 15, 100 franchises, whatever it is. That makes sense because that's where you will make money in the franchise world. So that's a different level, right? That's someone who's already massively successful and they're just investing. Beyonce and Jay-Z bought a $200 million house that they don't even really plan on living in. They just need a place to park their money, right?
Yeah.
So that's a totally different level. But for someone that's just starting out, where do you go? What is an automated business? Because that's the problem is most people don't even know where to go. They don't know what to do. They have no idea. And even if you give them an idea of a SaaS business, to do a software as a service business, okay, well, how do I even go build that out? What do I do? How do I do it? How do I market it? So that's the issue. So it depends on what the people, what the individual is interested in, and then of course finding that business, and then
Yeah.
knowing how to grow it, knowing how to market it, knowing how to do all that. So it took me a long time to figure all this stuff out myself. After my web hosting company, I got into the consulting business. I just figured if I can help companies make money, I will always be able to make money, and that's 100% true. But again, a consulting business where you're manually working with companies one on one, how do you scale that? Right. So I'll go through how I got from there to here and some of the new things I am doing and how we're doing a little bit of tweaks to a consulting business today and how to make a much, much bigger profit. So back in '06, after we sold the web hosting company, because that company was a dial-up company at first, and we got the web hosting business and all this stuff. We had data centers, but what happened was after I got out of that, again, I said to myself, I'm gonna, work with companies that can make more money. So the first company I ever worked with was a company called Lovesac, which is they sell furniture, and
Yeah.
they're much bigger today. And that was my first client ever, which is really cool. Ended up paying me about $6,000 a month. I was like, this is great. How do you go wrong, right? But then real quick, what I learned was, oh crap, how do I scale this business? I need a
Yeah.
lot of employees. I can only handle 5, 10 clients by myself. You know what I mean? But yeah, the average person can only handle probably a few clients. And then you have to have sales and marketing and support and all this stuff. So I can only grow it so big. Then what happened was 2010. So I was doing that for a few years. It was pretty easy for me. And I got, decently large. I started working with some consultants myself just to get bigger. I got acquired from an investment fund, and the guy who ran that investment fund, his name was Jim Estill, Estill. Anybody listening should search this guy up and just follow him. He was one of the first investors in BlackBerry, made about $500 million in that one investment alone. Sold another, invested in another 100 companies, sold 20 of them, and then he had his own business that went from 0 to 2 billion in revenue, sold that, wrote a book from 0 to 2 billion. Guy's an absolute beast. So he acquired my company at the time. At the time, he had an investment fund with 17 companies in it. So I started working with all those companies to help out, and I grew that company bigger than I had. When we sold the web hosting company, it took us a long time. I mean, it was hard, we never even raised money. We didn't know how to sell a company. It was really tough. It took us a couple of years to kind of piece it all together because we
Yeah.
just didn't have the right people around us. We didn't know who to help us. We worked with brokers, and a lot of them are garbage, but we just had no success. So eventually we figured it out, but it took us a long time. So when we went to go sell the company that Jim acquired, when Jim acquired my consulting company, I grew it bigger. And 2 years later, at the end of 2012, we sold it again. So I'm talking to Jim, and he goes, you know what, so we made a decision to do it, to sell the company. I just assumed that this would take a while, months, a year later, maybe we'll figure it out. So Jim goes, "Yeah, I'll be back. I'll be right back." So, I was at my desk. He left, came back about 5 minutes later. He goes, "Okay, company sold." I'm like, "Oh, you mean like they're interested? We have to go talk to them, do the dog and pony show?" He goes, "No, it's done." This guy sold a company with one phone call. So again, that's what it's all about: putting yourself in the right room with the right people, rubbing elbows with the right people, partnering with the right people, learning from them, right? Because people that can do that are at a different level, right? So we ended up that company ended up getting acquired. I ended up going back working from home again, started doing consulting again. Not something I really wanted to do, but I learned about the lead generation business when I was at the investment fund. The reason why I learned about it because someone came to the investment fund looking for an investment for their lead generation business. And that's why I started learning about it. And when I say lead generation, I'm talking about the act of generating a lead. So you run an ad on Facebook, someone sees that ad, they click on the ad, they go to a website, they fill out the form. So now you have their data, they have their contact info, and then you sell it. So I love that idea. I'm like, wait a second, this is the perfect business for me. I'm good at sales, I'm good at marketing, I'm analytical, I can figure out all those numbers and everything you need to make that type of business successful. But the investment fund didn't want to get involved in that business. So I always kept on the back burner. I ended up getting screwed over by this guy. He had a business, a digital marketing company, a consulting company. They reached out to me, said, "Hey, we're not doing well. We're going backwards. Can you help us?" So I
Yeah.
went in there, restructured all their services. I even brought some people in, turned the business around. 6 months later, I even brought a buyer in, and I got the company acquired in 6 months. But the guy didn't want to pay me and whatever. He wanted to screw me over. It doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, so because that happened, it was actually the best thing that ever happened to me. So, and that's another thing. A lot of people take negatives and they let it bring them down. I take negatives and I let it build me up because I'm like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to turn this around. Adaptability is a huge strength for an entrepreneur. You have to be able to adapt. You have to think 10 steps ahead. You have to always be ready for what can go wrong. Like, for example, if you go try to raise money to an investor, that investor doesn't want to know all the great things that are going to happen. They want to know all the negative things that are going to happen and what you're
Yeah.
going to do to fix it. Even some crazy stuff like a bomb dropping on your building, just something stupid, the craziest stuff you could think of. They want to know that you have a plan because bad things are going to happen. Roadblocks are going to exist, and they want to know that you're the type of person that can get around it. So being able to do that, I call it being a professional problem solver. If you're a professional problem solver, you will be successful in business no matter what, because you'll always figure it out. And that's all that matters. So what happened was I got screwed over, is what it is. But what happened was I decided to say, you know what? I fired all my clients. I dropped everything. I stopped listening to all the opportunities that were coming my way. And I said, I am going to build a lead generation business. And I did it by myself. It took me 6 months. I started April of 2014. And by October of 14, I figured it out. And I started running Facebook ads. I started generating leads for $18 a pop, selling them for $60. I was making $40 profit a lead. It's crazy. I started scaling that business. By that December, January, I was doing over 100,000 a month at that time. And it just changed everything for me because I'm like, oh my God, I figured it out. So and I took a negative and I just turned it into a positive. Because if that never happened, I probably would have continued in the consulting side and I never probably would have jumped over to lead gen, or at least I wouldn't have done it at that point in time. But I will say something else. There was a study done. I don't remember the name of it or who did it, but there's a study done. They took all the Fortune 500 companies and they tried to figure out what's the reason for their success. And just to make a long story short, it came out to timing. And I got into that business at the right time. If you wouldn't be able to duplicate what I'm doing today back in 2000, what I did back in 2014, you wouldn't be able to duplicate exactly what I did today because I was doing business loans at the time. and Facebook was very cheap to run ads back then, or much cheaper, I should say, to run ads back then. It was a newer industry. So I hit it at the right time. And because I was able to scale and accumulate, the revenue and the profits, when things started getting harder in that specific industry, I was able to fix it, pivot it, because I was able to handle any loss that could potentially happen down the road. But because I was always thinking 10 steps ahead, I thought to myself, all right, I was always ready for the things that would go wrong. So, for example, the main thing that went wrong was my lead cost that was $18. Every month, it kind of went up like $5. So by the time like February, March, April, it started coming, it was like 22, 28, 30, 32. So that lead cost went from $18 to $70 in 12 months. So guess what? Couldn't make a profit anymore. And that's when I learned my secret sauce. You want to hear about it?
Here we go. Listen up, people.
So I got to tell you, man, I have spoken in front of hundreds and hundreds of multiple seven-figure earners over the years. And when I bring this strategy up to them, it's shocking to me on how many do not even think about it, haven't done it, just never even put thought into it. At first, the first time I ever spoke about this was at a War Room Mastermind event. So you have to generate at least 7 figures to be part of War Room. It's like 40 grand a year. So you're higher net worth people, but also people that are obviously successful with their business. So when I first spoke there, I didn't really know what to talk about. I had no idea. Like what value am I going to bring? And that's the room that you always want to be in. You want to be in a room where you feel stupid, right? You have to be in that room because it's the only way you're going to grow. You can't hang out with people that you're smarter than all day long, because how are you ever going to be better? If you're good at a sport, you don't only play the people that you can beat every day. What's the point, right? So I ended up talking about the concept of when you generate a lead. So let's just say I get one business loan lead. What I was doing was I was generating one business loan lead, and I was selling that lead to a business loan company. Makes sense. That's what I was doing. I wasn't doing anything else with the leads. But when my lead cost became $70, I said, oh crap, I'm losing money now. What do I do? Right? So what I started doing was I started filtering out these leads for more industries. So for example, I would ask them, what's your credit score? Oh, you have bad credit. Let me sell it off to a credit repair company. If they were a startup and they couldn't get approved for a loan, I would sell it off to a credit monitoring company. They're just a startup, right? They're just getting going. Monitor your business credit, start building that. I have business credit building companies. Of course, you can do credit cards, right? So I started finding all these different companies that can take these leads in and provide a service to them, even in corporation services to get them incorporated, an LLC, an S Corp, C Corp, whatever. Started doing that. So I started monetizing these leads 5-6 different ways by making a dynamic form. So when they filled out my form, new questions would pop up based on their answers. So if they say, I have a 680 credit score, cool, great. Let's keep going. If they say I have that 500 credit score, I say, hey, you interested in credit repair services, right? So it's a dynamic form. When I explained this at that War Room Mastermind event, I was shocked because about 250 people there. There was this guy, Michael Perella. He owned I Love Kickboxing at the time. This guy came right up to me. And right afterwards, he goes, Phil, he introduced himself. He goes, we have to talk. I generate 90,000 leads a month, and I never even thought of doing this. And about 20 people total came up to me at that point in time. And I was just shocked. Throughout the 2 days of the event, came up to me, and I was just shocked, blown away. So then I started, utilizing that more in my marketing and stuff, because clearly if those people don't know about it, then someone getting started has no clue. So a funny story. So I'm part of Damon John. Damon John, is in Shark Tank. So Damon John from Shark Tank. I'm part of his mastermind group called Rise Nation. I was at his event back in March in San Diego. And while I was there was other events going on through the same people. So I ran into someone that I knew who was at that War Room Mastermind event when I spoke about monetizing your data. This guy, Brad, is from Austin, Texas. Comes up to me, what's going on? How you doing? We go to the bar, we're getting a drink. And he goes, man, I got to tell you, I took your advice. Well, what he said was, he goes, remember when you spoke at War Room? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, talking about monetizing data. So he's like, you know what? That always stuck with me. I never did anything about it, though. I finally implemented it, though, last year. I'm like, oh, cool. Nice. He goes, I added 7 figures to my business by doing what you said. Now, he's in a merchant processing business, so he would generate business leads and just provide a service, right? Makes sense. But then he put together a full, it's between 6 and 12-month campaign promoting. So he would, his leads would get emails for other services.
Yeah.
And for about 6 to 12 months, all built out, all automated, and they would just get emails. And then he goes, dude, I mean, it took him a little while to figure it out, which ones are better, what should he promote essentially, what's going to make him the most amount of money. And he's been tweaking that, but he goes, dude, it works. I had someone else tell me the same thing. I met him at an event called Traffic and Conversion Summit, also in San Diego. I see him one year. This is like 2000, let's call it 2020. I don't remember the exact year. But what happened was I gave him that same advice. He's in a lead generation business. He was generating leads and selling them, but he was only selling it once. That's it. So I explained the whole thing. He goes, wow, that's actually pretty good. A year later, I never talked to the guy for a year. I see him at the same exact event a year later. He goes, Phil, I took your advice. I'm like, what are you talking about? Remember when you told me to monetize my leads multiple ways? He pulls out his laptop, shows me all this stuff. He went from making, 20, 30 grand a month to over $100,000 a month just by adding that strategy. And there's plenty of other people over the years that have done it as well. But it's funny because those are 2 people that never even had to tell me. They just took the advice and ran with it, which is great. And I'm just lucky enough that I got to hear the story after the fact. But that's what we do. That is the true secret sauce with everything we do at Lead Gen.
Why do you think most people think it's complicated? I think a lot of people won't come across what your implementation behind how to monetize, different aspects of it just by adding, for example, some part of qualifier in your forms, right? But why do you think that when we think about, hey, what business to start, whether it's like, let's say we want to run a marketing agency, right? You have to do this. Maybe we have to do a bit of PPC. We have to do a bit of lead gen on the Facebook ad side. We have to do something on the LinkedIn ad side, or even just content, right? Why do you think we start thinking about the broader perspective and not just focus on that one area? Because it seems like that's essentially the bank shot, right? You go into that one area, you do it really well, and then you look at how you can get ahead, like you mentioned, to monetize that further. Why do you think we make it so complicated?
You know what it is that when someone starts a business, they're so concentrated on selling their own product or service. It's not even a thought in their mind of going to promote someone else's product or service. And it's not something that it should be a back end thing. You need your own product or service to be profitable, right, with your business. That has to happen. And then you want to go above and beyond and obviously say, okay, what else can I do with this? If you go to Walmart, you go to bestbuy.com, even Amazon, like they're driving traffic other places to monetize that stuff. Like they're even doing it. So I just think people just don't understand it. They don't get it. Maybe they think that that's a dumb idea. Why would I do that? Why would I go promote other stuff? Or maybe they think I don't want to become spammy. I don't want to sound like, I'm just spamming my customer base or my leads with other stuff. So it could be a lot of different things. Yeah. But there are ways to do it where it's strategic and you're actually helping your clients out. So for example, we have a business called allinonemarketing.com. It's all designed. This business is 100% designed for exactly what I just said. So what we're doing is we came out as a software as a service product. So we have software. It does SMS, email, all that stuff in one. It's an all-in-one solution. That's the first thing we came out with because I wanted a SaaS business. Like I said before, high multiple. Then we started providing some PR services where we can get people interviewed on TV, on NBC, ABC, Fox, Bloomberg, CBS, whatever. So that's another service that we had. Then what we're just doing right now is we're launching a chief marketing officer / consulting service. So we're doing that because we really want to get into the higher level clients, that 3,000 to 5,000 plus per month. So we started piecing this whole thing together, but it's all designed for this. When we generate a business lead, at the end of the day, I like the B2B space, right? I love business to business. I don't really like selling consumer products. So when you generate a business lead, there is 100 different things that business needs. Every business needs marketing. They need money. They need funding. They need different services from accounting to financial service, right? I mean, there's just so much stuff that a business needs. So when we generate a business lead, I basically want to I just want to be able to offer them a lot of different services, whether I provide the service or somebody else does. But the concept is when they come to us, if they say, hey, I'm looking for a business loan, great, I'm going to send them to my business loan partner. Maybe they want business credit services, I'll send them to that company. Maybe they want Facebook marketing services, I'm going to send them to that company. Maybe they want a website design, I'm going to send them to that company over there, right? Our core services we will provide, but all I want to do is just generate a lot of leads per day, be able to monetize it a bunch of different ways, make my marketing budget back, and then essentially the leads that we have for our services are free, right? But if you're strategic about it, it's good because I don't provide Facebook marketing services, so it doesn't hurt me, right? I don't provide website design services, business credit services. I don't do business loans, right? But the services that we provide are that consulting, the PR stuff, and the software. And now, if anybody's paying attention to me right now or paying attention to this, and they go, but you said before you never want to do consulting again, I'll explain why we're getting back into consulting. The reason why is we're doing consulting. You can call it consulting for equity. So we are charging for our time, of course, but we're also looking to find specific companies where we can actually get access to some equity, whether it's a public company or a private company, doesn't matter. Or maybe even get involved in getting a percentage of future sales where that future sales is because of us. So I'll give you an example. So Kevin Harrington got into a company called Celsius. It's a drink. I don't know if you ever drank it before, but that company was worth few million bucks at max, going back probably about 8 years ago, whenever it was. He got involved. He brought in some celebrities, the Kardashians, Flo Rida back in the day. They did a commercial with him. They started getting off the ground. Became a public company. Kevin got stock back then. Fast forward to 2022, last year, going to 2023, company kept growing. Pepsi ended up buying a percentage of the company for hundreds of millions of dollars. Then they got access to all of Pepsi's distribution. That business went up to a market cap of over $11 billion. Kevin walked away with over $200 million. Kevin walked away with, right? So that's why I'm getting back into the consulting world, because of that stuff, and get involved with companies on a much larger scale, whether again it's private or public companies, and doing that. So we're talking to companies now that are launching or getting FDA approval for certain stuff, or even smaller companies we can work with. It doesn't really matter what size they are. We have no problem just providing our services and charging a fee and not taking equity. But if there's certain potential, then obviously we want to go along for the ride. So that's the reason why we're getting more involved on the consulting, because of the huge upside potential. And then, of course, all the other stuff that we do. But at the end of the day, it's still a lead generation funnel where we generate all these leads. We monetize them outside of our core services. And, of course, we provide our core services as well.
I think this is one of the biggest things. I don't know if you come across this much, but saying that you've gone to a consulting business again, do you think it's still as... I know last time you mentioned when you started the lead generation business, you had great timing, of course, because Facebook ad cost was so low, and now we're all actually experiencing the whole wave of these, I guess, different generation that want to start their own marketing agency. And you probably come across it, you've probably seen it on YouTube and things like that, and it's almost like the people who say that they're going to do something versus people who aren't going to do anything at all. They're just there for the money, right? So that part's interesting. Excuse me. feel like I've got a bit of a cough, but anyway. So, do you think that the timing is still not even the timing, but do you think that it's oversaturated yet with people trying to start a marketing business, etc., as of right now? And do you think it still can be done with the amount of new marketing agencies that are coming out? Because now we have independent marketing agencies and agencies that are actually started by real marketers who have done it in house, who have gone through the frameworks and processes that they need to make to essentially understand marketing, understand what it is to market a product, especially a B2B business, and then get them the end result versus someone, let's say a kid who wants to just start a marketing agency to charge a local restaurant, let's say $1,000 a month or something, and then
Right.
get them more customers that way. Do you think that there's essentially a gap there, or is it too saturated?
I don't ever believe that anything's too saturated. There's always a way to wedge yourself in there to make some money, but it also comes down to what your end goal is. So if your goal is, hey, I just want to make 5 to 10 grand a month, I want to start an agency, and so I can work from anywhere. And yeah, that's simple. I could do that tomorrow, right? And I think the average person can do that because all you need to do to get started, just undercut the market just to get the clients. Maybe even provide the services for free for a couple of clients, get the testimonials, and then start charging, right? There's so much business out there because so many businesses are still moving to online marketing. Not everyone does it, right? So, and there's millions of new companies being formed every single year, right? So to start an agency, anybody can do that. Anybody can get it off the ground. Anybody become profitable as long as you want to put the work in. But how big do you want to make it? Because a true agency, to scale that to 6-7 figures a year, you're going to now need a lot of people, a big team, and whatever. So that's totally cool if that's what you're okay with doing and building that team. What a lot of the big guys did, they got into the course world because it's easier to sell courses and to teach people how to do something than do it yourself. And that's huge in real estate. A lot of real estate guys, they just started selling courses. Some of them do it themselves. Some of them stop doing it themselves, or they kind of just do it here and there, but they put more effort into just selling courses and online education because that's more scalable. So that's what I started doing. Back in 2017, I said to myself, I'm going to start selling courses because it was just an easy way to make money. And I was just giving people the knowledge I already had and said, hey, if you want to do what I do, go do it. And I still have that education business today. We already done 7 events this year. And, we do a lot, Kevin shows up to some here and there. So it just depends again on what the person's interested in doing. But I have to tell you, any of this stuff is possible. They never think that anything's too saturated. I can't do it. You can achieve anything that you want if you're willing to obviously just put the work. But there's so much business out there. It's insane. Absolutely insane. On how much business there. And it doesn't matter. Like, listen, you are right. There's certain things that'll be harder to get into. To go start a lead generation business and just focus on business loans, that would be difficult. What I would tell someone to do is go do health insurance instead. Don't do business. If you want to do a lead gen business, just do health insurance instead of business loans. The cool thing about the lead gen business is there's over easily 100 verticals that you get into, 100 industries that you can get into. Anything from, just think about it. You got solar, you have all the insurances, all of the lending options from personal, business loans, lines of credit, payday loans. I mean, just a ton of different lending options. You got mortgages, all the mortgage products. You have construction, all the local stuff, home improvement, bathrooms, kitchens, whatever. Those are all lead gen companies, right? That are generating those leads. You got the car industry, right? You have, like I said, solar. It's just the list goes on. There's plenty of companies that need leads. Even restaurants need leads. They do marketing, right? So you can generate leads for anything. I know guys that are doing thousands of calls a day in auto insurance and health insurance and solar. It's crazy, and all the different verticals. And you can live and breathe off just one vertical if you wanted to, and just concentrate on that. So the good thing is that there's always a vertical that's hot. Even if a vertical kind of dies off a little bit, like mortgage kind of died off a little bit, but it's going to come back, and you can make a ton of money at that point in time, when it comes back. So once you learn how to be a media buyer and be able to drive traffic, you can do anything. It's kind of like being a car salesman. If you sell for Honda, you can sell for Toyota, you can sell for BMW. You're a car salesman, you can sell any car. If you're a lead generator and you understand a concept of generating leads, buying media, driving traffic, converting that traffic into leads and selling it, you could do that in any vertical. You can enter anything. You can get into the call center industry, right? And generate leads via call center, have people on the phones. You got email marketing, SMS marketing. I was just at Affiliate Summit literally yesterday in New York City, and there's a guy walking around with a sign. He said, I do B2B offers. So if you're in business to business, let me know. And I'm in B2B. So I said, hey, what's going on? What do you got? He goes, I can send out unlimited SMS to any offer as long as it's B2B. I'm like, cool, let's do that. Right? So the guy doesn't care what offer you have as long as it's business to business. He'll start sending traffic, and when he sends traffic, I buy the leads. Right? So that's just a simplified way to drive traffic. So that guy doesn't care. He's just in the B2B space. He doesn't do consumer products. Right? So anybody can do this at any time in most industries. Well, the hot industries, you're always going to target whatever's hot, right? You don't go into something that's cold, but anybody can do this. It of course, there's work involved. You have to I'll tell you another thing that I learned over the years. Like I said before, becoming a professional problem solver. That's a person that's going to be successful 100%. One other thing is teaching yourself. If you're the type of person that can teach themselves, you will be successful because that will outperform anybody. I'll tell you a story. When I got my first internship, that was the internship that offered me a job when I decided to go start my own company. And there was over 200 applicants for this internship. And this guy, Jerry, hired me, and he told me, yeah, there's over 200 people. We'll let you know. And he asked me a few questions, and he called me back one day and he says, offer me the job. I was like, cool. It was actually it was an internship, but it was actually a paid internship. I think it was like $13 an hour or something like that. So what happened was I asked him, Jerry, why'd you hire me? It's 200 people. I got to ask. My first real corporate job, and actually my real and only corporate, my first and only. So he goes, remember when I was asking you how you learned all this stuff on your resume and you said you taught yourself? Because he goes, I know the curriculum of the college and I knew it wasn't on there. And he goes, the reason why I hired you because you're the only person that had other stuff beyond the curriculum on the resume. And you said you taught yourself. That's important to us because this is 1998 and I was a webmaster, which we don't even use that term anymore, right? So I was a webmaster and I was running their corporate infrastructure for websites. And they basically said to me, we have no idea what we're doing. So if you don't know how to do it and you can't teach yourself what to do, we can't help you. So it was very interesting for companies at that point because the people hiring people didn't even know it themselves. They were praying that you actually knew what you were doing and you could actually figure it all out. Right. So that was the reason why he hired me, because I was able to teach myself, and that always stuck with me. So when I see people that I work with and I see the ones that can teach themselves, or people that come through my education business and they start, it's not really just an education business. It's more service based. We actually do a lot of things for them. These days, we kind of transitioned over from courses to services. But what happened was the people that I see that come to our events, our masterminds, I can tell instantly who has the right mindset, going into this, who can teach themselves. And it's always the people that can teach themselves, the ones with the right mindset that are successful. And I'll explain real quick what I mean by mindset. I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
And then I'll let you ask me any other questions. This is probably the most important thing for anybody looking to start a business, the most important thing. And I'll explain it from an Olympian standpoint first. So if you want to become an Olympian, you're going to go to that Olympic coach. That Olympic coach is now going to ask you, are you serious about becoming an Olympian? Because to become an Olympian, you have to now basically give up your life. You have to train 24/7, be at the gym probably 5 o'clock in the morning every day, right? Training and move forward. So if you don't have that mindset going into becoming an entrepreneur and understanding the road that you're going to go down, that you should spend as much time as you can in your business, what you need to tell yourself is, I am going to do whatever it takes to be successful in my business, whatever that is, right? And as long as you have that mindset, as long as you teach yourself, as long as you understand that you need to solve problems, become a professional problem solver. You always need to know all the negative things that can happen in your business and prepare to tweak and pivot. Right? As long as you have all those things and understand what you need to do, then you'll have success and you'll keep moving forward. That's the problem. That's the problem with most people, is that they go into it with the wrong mindset. So same thing as an Olympian. You go into become an Olympian with the wrong mindset, you'll never become an Olympian.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you've said that, because we try to start a lot of businesses, but we ask, let's say, our mums, our dads, maybe our best friends, but they're not in the same position or they've not done it before. And so when you take advice from them, you're almost saying, hey, well, how are you going to get anywhere if they're not providing you with the advice that you need to get there? You need to go to someone that's done it before. And I think one interesting thing you mentioned about the internship was pretty cool, because that's actually how I got started, right? I did it was like a voluntary project, and this was at university. So it came all the way at university. And I think it's more like a ripple effect. Getting an internship at uni, then pitching, doing some form of overarching marketing strategy for them where they loved it. And they were like, hey, Neil, do you want a job? And so got me a job where I was acting like almost like an intern for 6 months. And then after that 6 months stint, I volunteered for free for another agency for 6 months. And then I was like, hey, I think I'm ready. And I landed, when I looked, I was like, oh, where do I go from here? Do I start the job or do I go in-house? But the direction I needed to go, I needed some more credibility. So I went into that B2B space, of course, where I was always at, but it was more software related. I wanted to bring it back there. And I managed to secure like a growth manager role, which is almost unheard of. It's like acting CMO at a company. And I'm a guy that's only had like a year of actual experience in the actual marketing industry. So, and then that got me so I did that for 2 years. I managed to do that. But because I was a self-starter, I always said, hey, if I don't know the answer, that was actually part of the interview. If you don't know the answer, what are you going to do? It's like, yeah, you're going to go figure it out, and you're going to go find out, can you actually get these leads for us? Yes, we can. What do you need us to do? How much budget do you need? All these questions you get asked, you go and figure it out. And so, fast forward a bit, now I've sort of moved into that freelance consulting role where I'm doing that now, and providing services, so growth marketing services for B2B startups. And that's been the most exciting thing. Well, I'd even say B2B, but I would say the software startup world, right? But the transition was there, right? And it all started from being a self-starter. I think if I didn't put the work in to actually learn a bunch of that stuff, trial and error, you don't tend to succeed in that transition period as well. And I think you mentioned as well, like it's important. Hey, if you know that you need to get a few clients, you need to get some testimonials, or you need to ask, hey, I'll do this for free, and then depending on the success, you can just get a retainer on board, or some equity if that's the direction you're going in. Do you think that there's some common mistakes that we all just tend to do, like when we're trying to start a business? Do you think there's a way to avoid them, or do you think it's again that mindset piece that you mentioned?
Mistakes will always happen. You got to just be prepared for it. But the idea is to never do it twice, never make the same mistake twice, but learn from people who have already done it. So I'll give you an example. That whole consulting for equity, there's a guy named Roland Frazier. Roland Frazier was one of the founders of War Room. The guy's an absolute beast. He helps run the Damon John Rise Nation Mastermind. Roland's amazing. He's the guy that charges, 25 grand for a consulting session, so, and people actually pay it. I'm actually one of those people who've actually paid that. So Roland's great. So when it came to me wanting to learn more about, start doing this consulting for equity, I want to learn from everybody. So I know Kevin already does it. I have another guy, Omar Periu, his business turned into LA Fitness. LA Fitness is the largest health club in America. That guy works with Tony Robbins, 28 best-selling books. He's another beast. So I went to him as well. So I went to Roland, Omar, Kevin to learn about it. You go to the right people who are already doing it, living and breathing what you want to do, the mistakes are going to be minimal. And that's the best thing you do. It's worth investing the money to be in that room, to speak to these people. Do whatever you can to be in that room. I pay $50,000 a year, okay, 50. $50,000 a year to be part of Damon John's mastermind. That's 3 events so it's 6 days a year. So it's over $8,000 a day that I spend just to be in that room. It's not only about being with Damon and Roland Frazier and Ryan Dice and whoever else is going to be there, up in the front of the room, but it's also the other people in that room. I want to meet them. Who else is willing to spend 50 grand to be in that room? Because they're clearly looking for greater things. They're obviously have done great things already. And I want to learn and network with them too. That's just as valuable. So when you can put yourself in these rooms, it's the best thing you could possibly do. But take advantage of it. Take advantage of the people. Talk to everybody. Learn. Because literally a 5-minute segment of a 2-day event could be literally all you need. That could add that could double, triple your business. You never know. One new contact could double, triple your business. That happened with our web hosting company. I met one guy who gave me one piece of advice that ended up being the one main piece that skyrocketed our company. And it was a marketing strategy that worked going all the way back to 2001. And that skyrocketed our business to where we could eventually sell it. So it's just crazy, man. You got to put yourself out there. You got to educate, but you have to implement. I say I lie all the time. I learn, I implement, and I execute. You have to do it. And if you don't, then that's on you. Nobody else. But you'll be shocked at what's possible as long as you put the work in and you put yourself around the right people.
I was going to say that we've talked quite a bit about lead generation, and you mentioned qualification earlier as well. But if you were going to set up this sort of business right now, how do you think people can automate that? Because automation is a big thing these days. Not that you can't. I think people need to put the work in at the very beginning, even to make sure that it's maintained well enough. And then also when you actually give it off or automate it further, you still need to keep an eye on it now and then. So how do you think that people should automate things, right? Is there a certain step-by-step process, or, what do you need to automate in order to actually go ahead and scale things up?
So for us specifically, when we generate a lead, the reason why I love the lead generation business is because it is. So my ad is this. I say the lead generation business is the fastest way that I found to 7 figures a year. That's how I start off my ad, and I have lead gen on my license plate. So lead gen is literally my license plate. So it's all a marketing strategy, right? I put lead gen on a license plate of Lamborghini because it's the fastest way that I found to 7 figures per year. So it's automated and scalable. So what I mean by that is this. We generate a lead. Once that lead goes to our website, fills out the form, that's going to go to our lead distribution software. It gets filtered out and gets sent to the buyers, right? Whoever's buying that lead, whoever I'm sending that lead to. That lead also goes to SMS marketing, email marketing, and any other strategy that we have to reach out to those leads. The great thing about everything that we do is, again, it's all automated. That to move data around, to find buyers, all that's the best part about the business. It's all automated. You're not manually emailing anything. No one's manually doing anything. That's the reason why I like this specific business. You're just selling data. That's all you're doing. And everything's legal. You got TCPA compliant, and people have to, fill out the form and agree to the fact that they're being contacted, and we have a partners list and all that stuff. You know what I mean? So all that stuff is good, and never had a problem legally. Don't ever think that you can't call leads and email and all that stuff, because we do it every single day. Never had a problem. Just so everyone knows. But you have to do it right. And the laws have changed and how to collect data and how to contact people. But at the end of the day, that's the beauty of the business. It's all automated. There's plenty of services out there, plenty of softwares out there that handle all this stuff. And that's the reason why we created our own software through all-in-one marketing, because we knew what needed to be done. Because I go out there, we have like 7, 8 different pieces of software that we use to all this different stuff, and we have to know how to move it all around. So now we have one solution that everything's in one account. So you have to worry about moving around to SMS and going email here and doing this there. And if you're going to do voicemail drops, or are you going to do any type of calling platform? So we do everything in one now with our software for that we provide to companies. But we basically created that ourselves. We created the service and utilize that software because we know what companies need because we live and breathe it every single day. And that's the difference between us. We get our hands dirty. We don't just talk to talk. We actually build this stuff out ourselves. So we actually, so we really understand. We know what to do. But yeah, the reason why it's all automated is just because of the nature of the business. And that's why I like it so much because, and another thing, how do you scale it? You just spend more money, right? So once you spend $1 and make a profit, well, what do? You go spend $1,000, $10,000, $100,000.
Yeah.
So my first ad was $20 a day, and that went up to $5,000 a day just a couple of months. So that's how I scaled it.
I'm guessing you market yourself the exact same way as well, right? Because that's technically like a testimonial. That's how you get your clients, obviously.
We get our clients just by showing what we do. Right. When I first started selling courses, I used to log into my bank account, literally log into my Chase account and say, look, all these companies are paying me for leads. I do this every day. So I can show you how to do it because I do it. And that's exactly how I sold it. And people are like, holy crap, this guy's pulling in hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. This is insane. And I literally logged in my bank account. I didn't care. I'm an open book. So here you go. This is what I do. It's different today. I don't need to do that anymore. But that's how I started because nobody knew who I was. They didn't know anything about me. Am I just some person running a scam out of my basement? You know what I mean? But then when I partnered with Kevin Harrington and I started doing more stuff with him, then, it was a game changer because he provided all the credibility that I needed. So that's the reason why I wanted to partner with someone like him. I paid $9,000 to meet Kevin and get interviewed by him. So it was worth every penny. And you know what? People told me not to do it. You don't understand, man. I had multiple people reach out to me. Man, Phil, you're going to waste your money. It's a scam, blah, blah, blah. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. You got to trust yourself. I trusted my gut. I knew it was the right move. I needed to be in the same room as that guy. I got an interview with him. That interview by itself skyrocketed the business. And then at the same time, when I was there, I pitched him, right? I pitched him when I was there. And that's a whole story in itself. But to make a long story short, I knew I only had 30 seconds to pitch him. And I said, Kevin, all I want to do is just utilize your brand to take my brand to the next level. This is who I am. This is what I do. What do you say? And 8 months later, we ended up striking a deal. And at the end of the day, just so you know, I just pay him to utilize his brand, to partner with them. I just pay him. I mean, listen, of course he's looking to get paid, right? But instead of doing the whole take a percentage of my business and maybe one day I'll make a profit and you'll get paid, right? That's what he's worried about. Is this guy really going to pay me down the road? Is he really going to make a profit? I said, I'll make it easy on you. I'll just pay you every month. I'll guarantee you money.
Yeah.
So that was my pitch because it was so much easier.
Yeah, I think that's pretty incredible. And it's I guess what you've done so far, that's the multiple case studies of how people can just get started, right? They just need to essentially trial it out for themselves in whatever direction that they want to go in, and they can find different ways of just making it better and automating it. But I think that there's some really cool things for people to learn from here as well. I don't know if there's anything you particularly wanted to share. Sorry, go on.
No, go on.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything you particularly wanted to share sort of before we wrap up, because I know that you've provided already a bunch of value in terms of the strategies and tactics that people can use to sort of build a business like this, but also how they could go about automating it and scaling it, and how they could think about that on a more monetization sort of level. But yeah, is there anything else you think you feel like you've missed out on?
Nothing specific. It's more again, it's so mental. It's so the number one reason why people don't have success is because they get in their own way. They stop themselves. I seen people literally not start a business because they couldn't figure out which domain name to buy, or they ran into a roadblock and they just quit. That's the biggest problem. It's the biggest hurdle is ourselves. When that guy, Jim Estel, acquired me in 2010, my consulting business, and I worked with him for a little while, I asked Jim, what's my strengths and what's my weakness? And one thing he said was, he told me my strengths and he told me my weakness, that he thought. And one thing that I asked him was, well, what do I do about my weakness? And he goes, nothing. You're probably not good at it because you don't want to do it. And I've seen a lot of people try to do things they're not good at. They get frustrated and they quit. You just got to outsource that stuff. Don't get involved in that stuff. Concentrate on what you're good at. So start a business that fits your skill set. The reason why I like lead gen, because it fit my skill set. I understood it. I have that analytical mind that can figure that stuff out. So just don't get in your own way. Just know that success will happen as long as you don't quit. A simple analogy for that is a marathon. People think about running a marathon. Oh my God, I would never finish a marathon. Anybody can finish a marathon. You just have to keep going. You may not do it in an hour or 2 hours. Maybe it takes you a day. Maybe it takes you 2 days. You can walk a marathon. You know what I mean? You just finish it. That's the problem, is people never finish. They quit. And the number one reason is that. So anybody can be successful. You just have to know that you have to keep moving forward and success will happen. And it doesn't matter how long it takes. So many people say, oh, they want success fast. I want that quick win and then I'll keep going. That's crap. I remember I started a network marketing company. I was doing network marketing after we sold the web hosting company. And it took me 4 months to make $1. My first dollar I made took me 4 months. And I wanted to quit. I so badly wanted to quit. But I ended up not doing it because I knew if I kept going, it will happen. And I think it was September I started. In December, I wanted to quit, but I said, you know what? I'll get through the holidays. Literally January 2nd of the next year, I made my first, I think it was like $1,500 or whatever it was. But that first month, that January, I ended up making over 12 grand. And if I quit, nothing ever would happen. So it took me 4 months just to make $1, and then it just skyrocketed. Well, I shouldn't say skyrocketed. I started making 5 figures a month that month. But so that's it. You just have to plant the seeds and just know what will happen. But again, people just give up too easily.
I think one of my final questions is, what sort of do you have? I think what's your favorite tool or software at the minute to use for whatever reason, or what you're doing in your day to day? Do you have a favorite tool?
I don't have. No, I really don't have like a favorite tool. It's more about what everything that you have to your advantage today. Especially like AI stuff. I mean, there's some really cool software out there with AI. At the end of the day, everything that I do is marketing based. Probably one of the coolest things I'm doing is the type of content I'm making. Those short videos, kind of like, I'll take this, what we're doing right now, we'll cut it up to a bunch of 10, 15 second, videos and start putting them out there. So I started accumulating about 50 to 60 of those now, and I'm going to start posting myself. But it's more about the marketing, the ability to the marketing that we do today. That's the cool. If you want to look at as marketing as a tool, the ability to advertise yourself and market yourself today is amazing. The reach we have, the messaging we can give, the ability to have thousands of people see your videos and not even have a huge following, that is cool. I mean, from marketing and using the marketing tools that are out there that can automate even a lot of stuff that's available to you compared to 20 years ago. I mean, crap, 20 years ago, we had nothing. Even 10 years ago, it was a lot less. But the stuff that we have today, take advantage of it. Start doing it. Even if one person watches it, who cares? Just do it and don't quit, because eventually it'll keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you'll start figuring it out. And make mistakes. It's okay. Like, let the mistakes happen, and just know, if you're going to fail at something, just fail fast, right? And pivot. So I failed a lot of things. I tried it, didn't work. Okay, but I kept going. I pivoted and I kept going. Take those negatives and turn them into positives. Just keep moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's great, actually. Well, Phil, this has been incredible. It's been super insightful as well. There we have it, everyone. This was a bit different to what we usually talk about. But I know that there are those in the audience that are looking to build a business or scale the ones that have already started, or even just get involved with a business and help that scale. So for SaaS founders and companies, there's some key learnings you can take away from this as well to test on your own business, obviously, and then you can see what scales. But otherwise, Phil, you have a wealth of experience, of course, and a wealth of insight actually on what you've done in the past, but what you're currently doing now, and what you'd recommend. So I think there's a lot of things that people can take away from this. Um, Phil, if anyone wanted to connect with you or they had to ask you questions or anything, where can people follow you or reach out to you at the minute?
My website, philipfsmith.com, would be the easiest place to go. And then from there, you can find everything else.
Sounds good. I mean, I'll even link that in the description, everyone, so that it's a little bit easier for you guys to find. But otherwise, if you guys are liking this content, please do sure to follow, like, and leave a comment. Of course, let us know what you're thinking. Let us know if you have any questions. Maybe there's something that Phil and I can answer. Otherwise, Phil, it's been a pleasure having you here on the Growth Vertical podcast, and we'll hope to definitely see you in the future again. Because I feel like we could probably talk for days on how to actually keep this sort of these sort of businesses going, how to create new ones, and what we can improve on to scale things further.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like I said before, I can talk for days. Our masterminds are multiple days, and I didn't even get into all the details and the big wins we've had. Obviously, the losses that we had. There's so much to talk about when it comes to this stuff, and it's cool to provide the information. Hopefully, somebody can take it and run with it. But it's fun helping others. So
Yeah, 100%. Well, we'll see you guys in the next episode, and yeah, see you soon.